All right, hello everybody, and welcome to today's exam training session for the CISA. And in today's session, we're just going to use Kahoot for a little bit of a practice exam to review the CISA questions and answers and go through some of the explanations for the answers. So I just want to make sure everyone's in before I click the start button. Are you all ready to start? So I'm going to go ahead
Yep.
and click the start button. For those that joined late, I put the link in the chat to see if you can still get it, but we have to get started. Okay. All right. And so you guys should see the questions and the answers. You have 20 seconds for each question, and then we'll look at the answers. So it's starting now. So the question is, which of the following observations will be most critical for the IS auditor during a DRP? That's the disaster recovery planning. So just click the answer that you think is correct on the screen before the time runs out. Right. So let's see. It looks like we did not get that, but that is okay. So let us go ahead and take a look at the answer. The scoreboard, we have 0. That's okay. But this is explanation. So one of the reasons is that when you are using the disaster recovery process, it's usually critical to track testing, like I did, because sometimes you might have disaster recovery processes that are not tested. So lack of testing is a big risk around that area. So that's why number 1 was the answer. And a quick reminder, I know this session is going to go quick because this is a practice. All these questions and the answers are available for you guys in the course. So you guys already have access to all of these questions and the answers. This is just testing some of that knowledge. So don't feel like you have to try and record all these answers on the call. All right, so let's keep going. Let's keep going. The second one is the primary purpose of installing a data leak prevention software is to control which of the following choices. And the question you'll see at the top. Some people on the leaderboard now. Awesome. The answer is confidential documents leaving the internal network. And look at that. Yay. We have our first few people on the leaderboard. And the answer is DLP, data loss prevention, right? The purpose is to prevent data from leaking from the company from being removed. So that's why that was the answer, because they want to check that data, confidential documents and data are leaving the network. You want to make sure that that's not happening. All right. Good job, guys. Next one. What's the best risk control in a small organization where the developers may release emergency changes directly into production? So what control should we have here? If you have a small organization and developers are releasing changes directly to production. Right. So great job, guys. The answer is A, or red. And let's take a look at the explanation. All right, we have CA leading the leaderboard still. Good job, folks. And the explanation is whenever there are emergency changes, sometimes you do need to put them quickly in production, but they still have to be documented and approved after the fact. Next one is, when planning a general IS audit, which of the following activities takes place in the first step of the planning phase? Right, we had a mixed bag here, but the answer is developing the risk assessment, because that's going to give you, oh, well, first of all, let's look at our scoreboard here. Again, we have some people up here. Good, good, good. So let's keep going. The explanation is the risk assessment is performed to determine how the internal audit resources should be allocated in order to ensure all material items will be addressed. Essentially, think about it as in the planning phase, you do some scoping work, and the scope typically would require some input from the risk assessment in order to determine how to proceed with that particular audit. Let's keep going. Next one. Most effective control for enforcing accountability among database users accessing sensitive information. So which of the following is the most effective control for enforcing accountability among database users accessing sensitive information. All right, and the answer for this one is the implement a log management process. So let's take a look here. Hold on. All right, we have some changes in our scores here. Great. So accountability, when you think of accountability, that means knowing who does what when. So that's why the answer for this, because this is talking about accountability, right? So the logs is what would show you who did what at what time. So that's why this is the right answer. Okay. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Fraud audit controls. Which of the following sampling methods would best assist the IS auditors? All right, it says discovery. Let's go and look at the leaderboard. Did anything change here? Okay, we're still going. And let us look at the answer. Discovery sampling is used when an IS auditor is trying to determine whether a type of event has occurred, and therefore it's suited to assess the risk of fraud and to identify whether a single occurrence has taken place. So the reason here is because and when it comes to CISA, you have to look at some keywords that they use in the questions. So because this was very specific to fraud, that's why you don't know what your full sample, the right sample set would be like. So that's why the discovery approach is recommended for this particular type. All right. Most important skill an IS auditor should develop to understand the constraints of conducting an audit. Oh, okay. All right. One of the things that people forget a lot about is project management. Let's take a look at this one. So, whenever it comes to conducting an audit, because of the actual question, so again, when it comes to certification exams, you have to think about the specific exam and how that's working. So this specific question, right, was talking about how to understand the constraints, and that's a project management skill. So one of the things that you guys have heard me talk about is how audit is just a project. So when you want to understand constraints around managing resources, deliverables, scheduling, those are all project management principles that you are utilizing to that those are project management skills that you are utilizing to address that particular scenario. So I know that one's interesting, but it's a good way to make sure that as you practice for the exam, always think about it from the CISA perspective. We'll keep going. With the help of a security officer, granting access is the responsibility of the access to data, sorry, is the responsibility of. Oh, wonderful, wonderful data owners. Let's see. Okay, we keep going. We'll keep going. Great. And I think that one you guys got it. Like granting access to data is partly the responsibility of the data owner because they own the data and they should have visibility and knowledge into who should have access to that data. Okay, next question. An IS auditor learns of a verbal agreement between IT and HR on service levels. What should the auditor do first? Right, confirm the content of the agreement with both departments. And for those of you that talked about, I don't think anyone selected the document I want. So, okay, good. So you guys got this. Great. Let's take a look. Leaderboard changing. Okay. An explanation is when you learn about something, right, as an auditor, that doesn't make it fact. You have to first confirm. That's why one of the things we talk about as auditors is you trust, but you also verify. So that for that particular question, you want to first understand that current practice before you can then make any recommendations. Okay? So great job, guys. Next question. What is the best indicator of effective backup and restore procedures after a disaster? All right, great job. Recovery time objectives were met. Okay, so let's look at that. Most of you got that correctly. All right, you guys are doing great. Let's take a look at the answer. The effective backup and restore procedures are measured using RTOs, the recovery time objective, to see how quickly, right, they are able to get back online based on the objectives that were defined. So great job, guys. So which of the following should an IS auditor use to detect duplicate invoice records within an invoice master file? Computer assisted audit techniques. Yes, it can be as easy as Microsoft Excel or any other data analysis tool. So let's take a look at this. You guys are doing great. CA is on fire. Let's keep going. And again, computer audit assisted audit techniques would enable the auditor to review the entire invoice to look for any items that match the selection criteria. Again, this could be as simple as using like VLOOKUP in Excel. Next question. An IS auditor reviews security controls, but the pen test is inconclusive. What's the best option? Right, you guys got it? Report. Most of you guys got it. Report potential security weakness and recommend a follow-up testing. And right, gold is catching up, and we have AK is on fire now with 4. So let's keep going. And again, because the pen testing is inconclusive, right? So you want to note that, but you also don't want to say it's inconclusive and that's all. You're recommending that there should be a follow-up, right, to determine if there are truly any weaknesses that need to be addressed. This is the next one, guys. The long one. During an audit of a small enterprise, the IS auditor noted that the IS director has super user privilege access that allows the director to process requests for changes to the application access roles, so access types. So, what should the auditor recommend? And I just realized with that question that was long. Let me see. There's no way to go back, so that's okay. Document a process for role change requests. Okay. Wow, AK is catching up. Again, I know that was a long question and you probably didn't get a lot of time to review it, but the auditor should recommend a process to prevent improper changes. So there should be a process in place to make changes to roles, right? So, or to request changes to roles. Let's go for the next one. Which of the following situations is addressed by a software escrow agreement? Vendor of custom software goes out of business. Let's go. Some of us got that. Let's see. Okay, moving up. I is moving up. Let's go. An explanation is a software escrow is a legal agreement between a vendor and a customer to ensure access to source code held by a third party. So if the vendor goes out of business or there's a dispute, then the company can still get access to that particular software. Okay, next one. Neural networks are effective in detecting fraud because they can. Right, the answer was the third one. Attack problems that require consideration of a large number of variables. Let's take a look. So neural networks is because with neural networks, you have to consider probably a large number of variables for the data that you're analyzing. So that's why that particular question is the right answer. And this is one of those reminders when it comes to the CISA exam. You always have to think about it from what does the material cover, right? So that's why you all have access to all the training material that you already went over. So this is one of those questions that it's just really based on the definitions and the way they've described it in CISA. So with neural networks, they can capture relationships between different sets of data and variables better. So that's why that particular answer was the best one. Okay. So this is another long one, so I'll give you a little bit more time to review. When auditing the IT governance framework and the IT risk management practices that exist within an organization, the auditor identified some undefined responsibilities regarding IT management and governance roles. So let me pause and make sure you all read that. Okay, so the auditor has identified that there are undefined responsibilities for IT management and governance roles. So here's the question. What's the recommendation that's the most appropriate? So keyword is most. They may all be appropriate, but which one is most appropriate? Right, implement accountability rules within the organization because without adequate, appropriate roles in place, right, you have to think about who's going to be accountable for what. So I think we had a change there. AK again, still catching up. And IT risks is managed by embedding accountability. So you want to, so the auditor would be recommending in this specific instance, implementing accountability rules that define the responsibilities and roles of the individuals in the organization. Okay. Another one. An IS auditor is evaluating a virtual machine-based architecture used for all programming and testing environments. The production architecture is a three-tier physical architecture. I'm going to pause. Okay, so virtual machine-based architecture that's used for programming and testing. And then the production architecture is three-tier physical architecture. So what's the question here? What is the most important IT control to test for web application availability and confidentiality? Oh, awesome, guys. Server configuration is properly hardened. I think everybody got that. Great. All right, next. And the explanation is the key control, because remember, there could be multiple controls, but a key control to test server configuration the key control to test is the server configuration hardening. So it's essential to patch any known vulnerabilities and disable non-required functions before production, especially if the production architecture differs from development and testing. Okay. Another one here, that's a long question. An IS auditor is determining the appropriate sample size for testing the existence of program change approvals. Previous audits did not indicate any exceptions, and management has confirmed that no exceptions have been reported for the review period. Auditor needs to determine the sample size for changed management controls. No exceptions for prior audits, and no exceptions have been reported for the review period. Let's look at the question. In this context, the IS auditor can adopt a lower confidence coefficient resulting in a smaller sample size. All right, let's take a look at this. All right, C is still going on. Let's go. When internal controls are strong, a lower confidence coefficient can be adopted, which will enable the use of a smaller sample size. So I know this might be a little bit tricky the way it's worded with lower confidence coefficient, but it doesn't mean your confidence is lower. It means that there are fewer issues, right? So there's a lower risk of failure. Essentially, and with the lower risk of failure, you can use a smaller sample size. Right, let's look at the next question. Environmental control protects computer equipment from short-term power reductions. Conditioners. Let's see why this is the right answer. Most people chose such protective devices. Let's see. So okay, got this. All right, let's look. Power line conditioners are used to compensate for peaks and valleys in the power supply and reduce peaks in the power flow to what is needed by the machine. Any valleys are removed by power stored in the equipment. All right, so that's what that one is. Next question, what is the best approach to mitigate the risk of a phishing attack? Awesome. User education. That's a key one. User awareness training. Okay, we are going strong. Yay. Let's keep going. I think that one was self-explanatory. When it comes to phishing attacks, it's usually end users that are targeted. So users need to be trained on what to do and what not to do. Let's keep going. We are almost done, guys. Great job. Although management has stated otherwise, an IS auditor has reasons to believe that the organization is using software that is not licensed. So, this is the premise. Management has stated otherwise, but the auditor has reasons to believe that the organization is using software that is not licensed. Here's the question. In this situation, the auditor should first verify the software is in use through testing. You can't just go off of your gut feel, right? You have to verify. So let's see here. Okay, AK is on fire again, answering 3 questions in a row. CA still in the lead. All right, when there's an indication that an organization might be using unlicensed software, just obtain evidence before you include it in the report, right? So don't just go based off of your gut feel. Let's keep going. Another one with a premise. During a review of a business continuity plan, an IS auditor noticed that the point at which a situation is declared to be a crisis has not been defined. So, when reviewing a business continuity plan, the auditor noticed that there's no documentation of what situation would need to happen to declare a crisis. So, let me pause, allow you to read. Okay, so what's the question? The major risk associated with this is that execution of the disaster recovery plan could be impacted. So great job. Let's see. Right, gold is moving up, and so is Mo. Mo is on fire. Answer streak of 3. Execution of the business continuity and disaster recovery plans would be impacted if you don't know if the organization does not know when to declare a crisis. All right? We're almost through, guys. You guys are doing great. Next question. Who is primarily responsible for overseeing an ERP project to ensure it follows the plan and delivers results? All right, great job, Project Steering Committee. Okay, so let's see here. All right, we have CA and AK both moved up. I think mode 2. Let's go. A project steering committee that provides an overall direction for the ERP implementation is responsible for the progress. I believe we have 2 more questions. What risk is most likely increased by using URL shortening services for online self-assessment questionnaires? All right, phishing. Let's go ahead and check that out. Great answers though with phishing. Let's see. I moved up again. Let's go check the answer. URL shortening is often have been adopted by hackers to fool users and spread malware. So you can't really tell what the full link behind that shortened URL is, right? So it's a real hackers can use that easily for phishing attacks. And our last question for today. Which of the following is the primary requirement in reporting the results of an IS audit? The report is Beautiful. Backed by sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. That's the answer, guys, because that's what you're really concerned about. The content of the report should be backed by evidence. Okay. Um, the IS standards require reports to be backed by sufficient and appropriate audit evidence so that they demonstrate the application of the minimum standard of performance, and findings and recommendations can be validated if required. So that's our last question. Let's take a look at our leaderboard. Right. We have gold in third place with 6,014 points, AK in second place with 8,835 points, and we have CA in our first place with 10,602 points. Great job, Mo and I. You were also on the board with several thousands of points. So thank you everybody for participating. All right.